Thank you. Thank you. Dede. 아무튼 가서 주사. 가서. 가. 됐잖아. 딱 그래. Go on. Okay. Okay. I think this is for me, isn't it?
Yes, that's for you.
One choice, isn't it? Then I prefer this. So today, my head now no use, no work.
Wow, il a casqué.
Thank you.
I always keep one sort of this kind of head in my back. Now today, no work. Sit down, please. Sit down. That's right. Okay.
Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you in this auditorium of the University of Lausanne at the beginning of a very special day. You are about 1,200 people in this room, and many others are looking at this event in 4 big classrooms of the university or through our website. Of course, it is not possible for me to mention the names of all the personalities who are present today, but I would like to thank especially 2 state councillors of the Canton de Vaud, Mrs. Anne-Catherine Lyon and Mrs. Béatrice Métro, for being with us. Today, I have the privilege to welcome His Holiness the Dalai Lama on behalf of all of you. I would like to thank His Holiness for making us a great honor to spend this day with us, to share his extraordinary experience, to provide his vision, and to help us to better understand the fundamental questions of life which we all have to answer at some point. Let me briefly explain why we have the chance of the presence of the Dalai Lama in Lausanne today. When the Dalai Lama decided to visit again Switzerland, he expressed his wish to include a day in a university in order to meet researchers and students and to discuss with them, because he knows that the students play a central role in each society. Of course, the direction of the University of Lausanne immediately confirmed that it was interested in organizing this extraordinary meeting for many reasons. But let me explain 3 of them. First of all, it is the responsibility of any university to give to its students the opportunity to meet important personalities. And it is obvious that a meeting with the Dalai Lama is a quite unique experience, which will certainly influence the scientific career and the personal life of many people who are here today. The second reason is that the humanities and the social sciences represent one of the main orientations of the scientific profile of the University of Lausanne. I am convinced that the development of the study of humanities and social sciences is crucial for science, is crucial for the population of our planet, and is crucial for every one of us. We are every morning impressed by the incredible progress of science and technology. Of course, this is very useful in order to bring us health, prosperity, and well-being. But this is actually a little bit dangerous in the sense that we may believe that technology will solve all the problems we have to face. However, it is clear that the real problems of the mankind will not be solved only by technological progress. What we really need is to be able to live together and to accept and enjoy our diversity, even if we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Therefore, the study of religions, of humanities, and of social sciences must be in the center of interest of any school and, of course, is a priority in this university. Today's contribution by the Dalai Lama will reaffirm this value. The third reason is that 3 years ago, the University of Lausanne got the responsibility to host a National Competence Center of Research called LIVES, dedicated to the study of life courses, and in particular of the vulnerabilities in life courses. The subject of today's discussion with the Dalai Lama fits exactly into the perspective of this important research project. Aging is certainly a vulnerable situation, but it is much more a time where one is able to take profit of a very long experience, to contemplate what is going on with a certain distance, to appreciate the relationships between people, and to think at essential things. By the way, the University of Lausanne launched a couple of years ago an ambitious research project called The Benefit of Aging, in order to value some aspects of this particular step in a life course. For all these reasons, the purpose of this day is a discussion on some aspects of life, aging, and death between the researchers of the university and the Dalai Lama. I was really impressed by the huge number of our researchers interested in these questions, and I can tell you that they are working in very different disciplines. They are all in this room today, and some of them have prepared this meeting with the Dalai Lama with great care during many months. I'll let them the floor in a minute, but before, I would like to thank all of them for having taken this extraordinary event very seriously. This day is special because of the personality of the Dalai Lama, but it is also special since our researchers and students will have the opportunity to share their questions and their doubts with him, and consequently will get a tremendous motivation for their scientific work in the next few years. Let me conclude this introduction by some thanks. First of all, I would like to express my personal gratitude and the gratitude of the University of Lausanne to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His presence in this room today is a gift, is a motivation, and is a moment of peace for all of us. I am very proud that the Dalai Lama accepted to visit the University of Lausanne. I am sure that everybody will enjoy this discussion, and I hope that His Holiness will also appreciate this scientific dialogue. Then I have the pleasure to thank all the scientists involved in the working groups for their excellent preparation and for their scientific input. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to all the persons who made this day possible, in particular the Vice Rector, Philippe Moreillon, but also many collaborators of the university. They had a lot of things to prepare and to organize, but thanks to their work and their enthusiasm, this event will be a great success. Now it's my pleasure to let the floor to the scientists, and let me start by inviting Professor Philippe Moreillon for a short introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rector, Your Holiness, Mr. Ricard, Mr. Wangdu, ladies and gentlemen. I am Philippe Morillon, and on behalf of the group of scientists who prepared this dialogue, it is a great honor for me to welcome you and all the audience to this event. I will have the privilege to chair this meeting today. When we learned 1 year ago that you, Your Holiness, would come to our place to discuss the so important questions of aging and dying in peace. Aging and dying in peace. It immediately generated an immense enthusiasm among academics and practitioners from many fields, including medicine, psychiatry, psychology, social sciences, anthropology, literature, and history. These scientists, who I will present to you in a minute, worked together over the whole last year in order to prepare this dialogue of today. They worked on formulating common questions, sometimes very simple, that none of them could answer with their own science. The dialogue of today will be separated in 2 sessions. This morning, we will address primarily the question of aging, and this afternoon, we will address the question of dying. Please let me introduce to you the panelists for this morning's session concerning aging. To your right-hand side, Mr. Alain Platet, psychologist. Mr. Platet is a social practitioner in Lausanne. He has created a new community that integrates younger and older generation called Quartier Solidaire or Solidarity Neighborhood. Then, to my right, Dr. Stéphanie Monod, geriatrics. Dr. Monod is clinical chief at the geriatric section of the Lausanne University Hospital, or the CHUV, and her research focuses on emergency medicine and distress in elderly patients. Then on your left, Professor Jacques Besson, psychiatrist. Dr. Besson is professor at the Faculty of Biology and Medicine of our university and at the CHUV, and his research focuses on addiction. Next, Professor Dario Spini, social psychologist. Dr. Spini is professor at the Faculty of Social Sciences, and his research focuses on life courses. Last but not least, Dr. Yanis Papadaniel, anthropologist. Dr. Papadaniel is senior lecturer at the Faculty of Social Sciences of the university. His research focuses on society, medicine, and palliative care. This is not all. In the front of you, we have 10 additional scientists who prepared this dialogue and whose name will appear or already appeared on the screen. These persons are all part of the group and may ask questions from the floor. Is that setting okay for you? Okay, thank you. Then before
What do you need?
Before entering deeply
Entirely up to you.
Before entering deeply in the subject, let me start with a short introductory question. It is the story of a child asking his grandfather, "Grandfather, is it a good thing to grow old? Your Holiness, what would be your short introductory answer to this child?"
Kabushan. I think it depends what kind of life you led, you carried, you lead. If your life, a meaningful life, something good for others, then I think this very, very sophisticated human brain, there's great ability to gain more knowledge. There are two ways. One way, study, learning. Through that way, gain knowledge. Another, through experience. So, the old person, you say, may tell, oh, Karoda, so, I think that old person, I think may say, time always running. So naturally, eventually everybody become old. That question of the young person, young boy, also is eventually become old. So this is something, Kasura, something strange thing. By nature, there's a process. So then old person, oh, I'm quite fortunate, now live very long, and led my life, more meaningful life. And so the old person may tell, oh, I have some sort of, some experience how to lead happy life.
Thank you.
Then another sort of old person, I think only think about material value and love is sports, right? Then getting older, you cannot carry these sort of sports, right? And even you find it difficult to hearing music, so some instrument put here, and also cannot see clearly. So like myself, you see, depend on the help of glasses. So then the old person may say, now old age is very terrible. That is beside physical difficulties, more mental worry. It's useless. But it depends. You see, to some people feel that way. Even, you see, I also noticed some people, you see, when many years ago, I think I can mention, I may mention, I think, one old senator, American, the houses, Senate houses. Of course, I know many years. So I express, oh, our old friends. He respond, not old, but of course on the face old. Since then, I felt, oh, the word old friend, old, actually, from when my mind does not mean, you see, that person become old, but many years since we become friends. So our friendship, very long years. So since then, now I actually used another word. Since many years, we have very good friendship. So some people, even you see, they express truthfully, old person, uncomfortable. Why? Whether you accept or not, reality, person become old. That's
Thank
my
you very
response.
much. Very wise, indeed. So, I think it starts very well for our discussion, and I would like to hand you over now to Professor Dario Spini, social psychologist, who will describe shortly the current picture of aging in our society and ask you about its uncertainties.
Thank you, Philip. Your Holiness, I would like to start this morning session on recalling some basic facts about the aging process.
벌써. Yes.
The first lesson I learned is about the increasing life expectancy observed worldwide over the last 50 years, but with many differences. I mean, we have here in Switzerland one of the highest life expectancy in the world, about 82 years, but still in countries like in Africa, some countries in Africa, we have expectancies like 47 years old. So the first lesson is about...
47.
Yeah. The first lesson is that actually our life expectancy is really dependent on the progresses of socioeconomic progresses. And for sure, progresses in medicine, changes in lifestyle, and transformation of work conditions all actually resulted in longer lives. This is the first lesson, I would say, of the study of aging. The second lesson is that actually individuals do not age at the same pace. There are a lot of differences. Yeah. However, and there is not only one aging population, actually there are several. As our life is longer, we can expect actually to have a first stage of our life, the young old as they are called, and of course the people who are in their 60s, for example, who retire, or are usually in good health, enjoy active participation in society, and take care of themselves and of others. However, there is another stage called the old, or very old, or the oldest old, and people become increasingly fragile.
Right?
When they become old, they become fragile and sometimes dependent. With frailty, actually, fragility, repair mechanisms are declining, and this has, of course, important consequences for families and for the society as a whole, who take care of the elderly. The third scientific lesson, and this is maybe the most important, at least for me, is that there are different attitudes towards aging in our society and individually. The first attitude is combating old age. There are a lot of negative stereotypes, actually, about old age, often wrong, but very persistent. And either by... And our society develops different means, artificial or others, that try actually to be anti-aging, to remain young. The second attitude is compensating for losses. As age advances, of course, individuals learn to adapt to losses, cognitive or physical losses, either by technology, and you mentioned we need glasses, we need sticks, we need a lot of artificial means to compensate for loss, but also with their mind. And of course, this is probably the most powerful mean we have. And actually, research shows that the elderly maintain a very high level, or relatively high level of well-being across many years. And in our country, they have actually a better, higher well-being than, for example, adolescents.
subjective well-being the yagiris.
The third strategy is growing. For sure, old age, and especially very old age, is marked by many losses. However, it is also true that learning and growing is possible at all ages. But this is probably what we know less scientifically, and there is clearly a need for dialogues and interdisciplinary research to know or to learn more about how these prolonged lives actually is also a chance to be more authentic and more generative. In order to conclude, I would like to ask Your Holiness the following question. From your perspective, how can we age well or positively when our forces are declining? I think you already answered somewhat or began to answer. So I would like maybe to ask something more. Is it only an individual experience or a responsibility, or do you see also a collective responsibility in the way we grow and the way we age well?
I did the first question. How can we age well when our physical forces are declining? I think there are some of the different aspects, right? Different causes. I think basically, as I always mentioned, the healthy mind usually is to create better health. Healthy mind means not only knowledge or education or knowledge, but mainly is a warm-heartedness. I usually call it that way. So a person keep more warm-heartedness or sense of concern of others' well-being. That automatically creates the inner peace. Because, once we develop genuine sense of concern of others' well-being, then there is very little room to harm others, to exploit others, right? Exploit others, and then cheating others. So automatically develop trust, friendship. So that I think very important sort of element, your own sort of mental level, calm, peaceful, and to look your surroundings. Because you keep some kind of warm feeling, warm-heartedness, so that person also, you see, get some kind of impression. Others also, you see, looks very nice. If you keep suspicion, distrust, I see a person who often use lie or hypocrisy, because of your own sort of mental attitude, when you look other people, these people also may, because of the lying to me, may take advantage of me. That automatically creates suspicion. That destroys genuine friendship. So no matter how rich, how powerful, in a world, that kind of mental state, that person always remains lonely, unhappy person. That's very clear. So perhaps I think you should take some more research work. How much sort of relation, the peace of mind and old age. Right? Old age, I mean, in the sense, really, physical really becomes something the difficult sort of situation. I think that this general thing. Now, another level. Of course, I'm not an expert. I think talking in the front of expert, I have no courage. But now, I myself, how old are you?
61.
61. Oh, young, compare me. No? So I think I'm oldest today. Nearly now 78 years old. So I have more experience about that.
That's for sure.
So you see, it seems from young age, person who train, I think more learning, and learning also. Not learning, there are also two categories. One, simply use senses sensorial. Sensorial. Some seeing, hearing, knowledge, mainly from sensorial experiences. And another, not much depend on sensorial sort of experiences, but mental level, thinking, analyze. That we call analytical meditation. So that, the more experienced person on that level, mind becomes something sharp, always alert. So I notice some person, physically old. Sometimes it's physical, even difficult to move. But mental level, very clear, very sharp. So here, you degenerate your physical condition. But mental level, still very clear, very alert. That kind of things also happen. Like that. So I myself, in what category? I don't know. I think third person must examine my mind. I think you see, the many occasions you see discussion with experts. It seems, you see, my mind, not bad. Seems quite clear, quite alert. So there's no other sort of reasons. From childhood, you see, our sort of system, the sort of learning system, not just copy, but analyze by yourself. And then a lot of sort of debate, dialectical sort of. I think immense help, you see, to create alert mind and very sharp. Whenever you see something, immediately you can, because of distinction, right? Like that. And other point in the question? Oh, that's right. Oh, so this is the individual level. Now, the community, after all, we are social animal. I think immediately your own family, where the family full of affection, full of trust, then I think a person, I think immense help to reduce this sort of degenerate your physical condition. And then some people say, so as a social animal, so surrounding a very friendly atmosphere, affectionate sort of surrounding, I think very, very useful, very helpful. So these things, I think, carry more research work. Then you can explain these things on the basis of your own data number. You can say like that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think you mentioned a number of things, of which I would like to underline two in particular for our students, because there are many students in the room. It is, do not copy, imagine, and make new things. So I understand that it is possible to develop in old age, but it is also a lifetime challenge, and you have to work on it. That brings me to an additional question. If now somebody is not only physically disabled, but also is growing old in his brain capacities to think, cognitive deficits, etc. And I would like to address you now to Dr. Papadaniel, anthropologist, for that question.
Thank you very much. Your Holiness, first of all, I would like to say how honored I am to meet you and to have this opportunity to exchange with you about this topic, which is the cognitive degenerations and the questions of identity. And more precisely, the issue I would like to address with you is the issue of the usual categories or the resources we ordinarily use to measure and to define our existence. Because when we are confronted with a person who is affected by dementia, we can observe that these categories or these resources do not work anymore. That these resources do not operate anymore. For instance, one observation amongst many others, which comes from a personal experience. I've been by my maternal grandfather's side for years. In my point of view, he was a great man and someone who had a happy life. But at the end of his life, he suffered from Alzheimer, and he died from it.
Really?
My grandfather. So I was by his side for the entire time of his illness. And I've seen him lacking references and being quite often frightened. And more generally, we know that people with dementia may suffer from terrible dreads, as if they found themselves at the edge of an abyss. But I've also seen my grandfather and other people affected by dementia eating with appetite and having good spirits. And for instance, I've heard quite often my grandfather singing as well. So we often say of a demented person that she's absent. Nonetheless, this absence is only relative, because a demented person remains, of course, present. She continues to exist, of course. even though she does not necessarily answer our questions anymore. So, like a sort of deity, I can address a demented person without being sure that she will answer or that she will understand me. So the general question could be, should we expect something from the demented person? Where can we find our resources to be close to a demented person who seems so far away from us? And my direct question to you is, do you have suggestions for us who seem a bit lost in front of a demented person?
정말 힘듭니다.
분자가 맛이
뭐라?
삼삼이 아침밖에
네. How would you communicate with a person
Yes,
who
and
is so demanded that he or she can no longer speak or
understand anything we say.
I don't know. I have no experience. That's difficult, very difficult. 다 버전이 그래서 게시하면 왜? 게시 코드 맞춰. Very difficult. I think still, you see, I believe, it's my sort of the fundamental sort of belief is affection is something very important. So the experience of affection is beyond word. So even you difficult to communicate, you can show affection, I think, the person. In most cases, I think, feel. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, as you mentioned, seek some help from technology, put some machine here. Maybe, I don't know. Some my friend, now not only you see something here, but also you see put inside and some sort of metal here, and then relate it with here. And in some cases, even small things planted in brain. Or maybe we may seek some help from such sort of expert, such technology. I don't know. Otherwise, I really don't know. Really don't know. And also, you see, there is, according to my own experience, you see, there is differences. The memory, name, difficult. Now clearly, you see, there is sign. Easily, you see, forget or can't remember. But the face of the person, never forget. And that also is a word. It's a certain things, or like, I think the certain terminology, right? Never forget. So, 명시 직보로다, right? 명시, 미명, 명시, 명시리. That terminology is ready, 명시로. Ready, 가르쳐야 나. 미명, 레라우치, 다 제로야다, 맞아야. 다 가속으로 그게. term도 ready, 그냥 전 맞아야지. 가르쳐야 돼.
Sometimes we forget names. People will remember the face. Sometimes we forget names of things and concepts, but the idea still remain with us. But we lack the faculty to express in words using the right term that doesn't come back to us.
So what is the differences? The brain level element, I don't know. It seems to be same category, word, right? The double shot of Mingzi, right? Ready, the mean chen, mid draw you do mean, the should the Korata Dakazore. Namju that talk back on you, Mato, Jumzeki Amarota. Right? Namju and the Modoyanda, Modoyata, Chiva, any Kasachuti, Tatayanda, Shiva. So they kept medicine.
Name and meaning, yes. Oh, yes.
세상에 미명스럽나?
Yes. Yes.
잡아갖고 잡아잡아도 그 움직입니다. 다 직점도 저기 고통다 줘 봐. 봐. 필로소피컬 본점을 주면은 고통다 줘. 이 잡아 줘야 되는 거야.
And also there could be a difference between mere names. We just label something with a name, but it doesn't have much meaning behind. Now, if it's a word that is imbued like a philosophical term, and then it's not just a mere name like Lausanne or something, but there's a whole meaning behind. So then that meaning helps to connect with the name much more easily, or we may remember the meaning quite lively, even the technical name is no more there. But it's more difficult of names which are mere labels and doesn't connect with a specific meaning. So we might forget that much more easily because there's no connection with meaning.
I think even human name, Matthew's no meaning. I don't know. John's no meaning. Now, one of my great friend, one German scientist, his name Wolf Singer. So, what the Wolf Singer?
So, yes.
So his name always remember. So there's some differences. John, simply John. Wolf Singer, behind that word is something so that always remember, much easier. I don't know how it works in brain level. We need more research work, more research work.
Thank you very much. I just want to take one or two things here. You mentioned affection. Somebody can be disconnected from the outside world, but we can still maybe show affection in several ways. And that made me think that the brain, or at least I understand that the brain and the mind closes itself from the outside world, but can still have an interiority and live. And maybe medicine can do something. I don't know. But that brings us, the scientific group, to a more sophisticated question, much more difficult for scientists, which are the notion of the mind and of spirituality. Because this is interiority and does not need expression, it needs inside life. So this question, I would like to turn you over to Professor Jacques Besson, psychiatrist, over there.
Your Holiness, once a diagnosis of serious and potentially fatal disease has been pronounced, spirituality can no longer be just a theoretical concept. The search for meaning becomes more acute during what we call spiritual crisis, when the person has to deal with dependence, loss of identity, a sudden shortness of time, and uncertainty about the future. In the West, spirituality is defined as man's search for meaning and the purpose of existence. This search may be based on beliefs, religious or otherwise, or on a philosophical, moral, artistic, or scientific attitude. It may involve practices and rituals. Meaning, values, and transcendence allow the patient to define him or herself spiritually. In the light of separation of faith and science in the modern Western world, psychiatry is not interested in helping the person in a spiritual or religious point of view. It leaves this field to hospital chaplains as part of the charitable tradition taken on by the Church. However, in Switzerland,
as in Europe and in the United States, most people define themselves as spiritual or religious. In the event of a serious illness, the majority of patients say they would prefer to have a doctor that was spiritually in tune with them. Furthermore, numerous studies have demonstrated that spirituality has a favorable impact on both physical and mental health. However, in spite of this evidence, doctors, and in particular psychiatrists, regularly ignore spiritual and religious factors in their practice and research. Indeed, psychiatrists are less religious than the general population. They tend to see religion as leading to feelings of guilt and dependence and associate it with superstition and intolerance. However, thanks to recent progress in the neurosciences, doctors have started to take an interest in the cerebral circuits involved in spirituality and religion, as well as in the work showing the beneficial effect of spirituality on anxiety, on mood disorder, and addictions. These recent developments show that there is a difference between mental health and spiritual health, with significant interactions between the two. This means that we should be offering care for spiritual distress in addition to the usual mental health treatment. Your Holiness, here is the question. Do you think there is a spiritual health? And if yes, are there spiritual diseases?
Page John locked the spiritual disease of Chomero.
So, the main spiritual disease is to have wrong views, which are not attuned to reality.
Okay.
But this is a lot of complications. We need a lot of discussions. But in any way, what is the exact meaning of spirituality when you use that word?
The quest for the meaning of our life and of the universe, should it be religious or not?
가르치는데 진짜 심주생에 대해 최대 과를 I don't think. No. I think basically, I always see telling people, because of the share people, the spirituality, one kind of spirituality related with belief or faith. Another spirituality not
Without faith.
Not based on faith. So then, spirituality, generally speaking, is a certain sort of values on mental level, not physical level, mental level, which is certain sort of views, something valuable in mental level, something beneficial to oneself, to others. That I call some kind of spirituality. So therefore, I usually use the word secular value, secular spirituality, and that that spirituality not based or not depend on faith. In the West, some of my friends, some Christians, some Muslim, they have a little bit of reservation. The very word secular, they felt the secular is something little negative because of that towards religion.
Against religion.
Against religion. But according to Indian understanding about secular, not at all that way. So secular respect all religions, not necessarily sort of accept because of the individually all religions. There are different views. 1,000 years, a lot of debate, a lot of discussions among sort of different spiritual sort of views or religious views. But overall, respect all different religious traditions. No preference, this religion or that religion. And also according to Indian understanding about secular, also is a respect non-believer. So that I think very wise, particularly in modern time. That kind of secular respect all religion and also respect non-believer. I think that's very relevant to today's world. I think you from India. You? Indian? Indian? Which state? Which part of India? Delhi. I usually see telling, expressing Indians, historically our guru, our teacher. All our knowledge here learned from ancient Indian thought or Indian masters. So modern Indian, I'm not very sure. So, you see, two levels, spirituality with faith, with religion. Another spirituality without religious faith. That must be. So that's the truth.
The mental health or spiritual health given.
So, I think for mental health, spirituality with religious faith also helpful. And those people who have no interest about religion, they should get because of the understanding the secular ethics, another level of spirituality, is really helpful to develop healthy mind. Simply, you see, denying these sort of values, mental value, just you yourself. So in fact, I think as a matter of fact, you see, you yourself become slave of these destructive emotion, anger, hatred, jealousy, too much greed. That person never be a happy person. So here, you see, I usually call, we study, we learn how to take care of our physical health. So similarly, we should have ways and means to educate people how to take care of our emotion, our mind. So sometimes I call physical hygiene, hygiene for the body and a hygiene for emotion. That I think very, very, important, necessary. Now, we, not just me, there's a number of my friends, mainly scientists and also educationists. You see, these, we have sort of common, because of that, common
interest.
the interest, yes, interest or goal. This modern existing education system very much oriented about material value, lacking about moral education. So moral, when I use the moral, the second, because of a category of spirituality without religious faith. That I think very, very, very necessary. Now those troublemakers, as far as their brain is concerned, I think very smart. I think like the September 11th sort of event, the dull person never plan such things, never carry such plan. Very smart. But that sort of smart brain become disposal of hatred. So we have to deal with that level, emotional level. Then all our knowledge, technology also, then become really helpful to humanity. So without dealing here, without taking care here, the technology also sometimes become disposal of hatred, anger, immense sort of suffering due to modern technology. Isn't it? Like that.
I would like to know, Your Holiness, in your opinion, what is the difference between spirituality and religion?
I think spirituality may be kasoda wider. Kadachik kasuri Europe self lavina. Europe self lavina. Ta kasuri Europe steda pemberanshi. Ta pemba. Chik sangbo. Ta semki. Sangbo. Ta yandensen. Dijikla spirituality is love. Ta dilu nangsiki and chode yuba. Chode the dra. Chode the madra. Dishatori. Chode the dra naloli. 지대고 문제를 쳐대. 지대고 문제를 쳐대. 다음 등에 쳐대. 다음 문제를 쳐대. 너무 쉽네요.
So, if you take, for instance, the benevolent mind, benevolence, altruism, altruistic love, this is much wider than religion. It actually encompasses. So this is more basic, more fundamental. And now, so in a way, it is more beneficial because it concerns everyone. Now, religion can, of course, enhance that in their own particular way. And also, they have different ways. There are religions which are theistic religion, non-theistic religion. Among non-theistic, there are some who believe there is a self-identity. Some believe, like in the Buddhism, that self has no intrinsic existence. So there's all these differences. But the overall concept of love and compassion, this is, if we develop it to spirituality, this is much wider. So in that sense, it benefits more universally.
And naturally, even I think animal level, some animal more kind, more patience. So such animal there, such individual animal there, the surrounding animals get much more peaceful. Like dog or cat, more peaceful cat, more peaceful dog, or surrounded by others. But dog or cat always bully other something, then automatically become isolation. Isolated, like that.
I have a last question, Your Holiness. How would you consider interdisciplinary work between the medical world and the spiritual and religious world?
Here, I think Tibetan medical system. Actually, I think 8th century, some kind of semi-international medical conference took place under Tibetan emperors or auspicious, right? Auspicious, or the Uchiwar. Yeah. So participant, local physicians, Indian Ayurvedic physicians, the Unani physicians, some Arab side or Parsi, Persian, this side. Then Chinese medical physicians. So since I think after that sort of meeting, then eventually today's Tibetan medical system is some kind of synthesized medical system. So there, you see, not only talking about physical condition, but also mental condition. So that system more holistic, not only taking care about physical, but also emotions, these things. So I think our daily life, even a dream, sometimes it's without physical sort of pains, but mentally some kind of painful experiences, like nightmare or something. Mentally, you experience very painful experience, but never touch physical. So it is some phenomena we have to deal with mental level of suffering. So people, without knowing the system of mind or emotion, then simply rely on alcohol, or drug, or tranquilizer, or sleeping pill. Then finally, suicide. So there's some kind of pain which on the level of mental level, then the remedy must find out from the mental level, not physical level. So mental level.
Collaboration there, by mind and left collaboration,
So therefore, you see, firstly, you see, mental level pain, we must deal that only through training of mind. One thing. Then mental experience, very much related with body. So that already we discussed. The healthy mind automatically develop healthy body. So therefore, the medical, because of that, taking care of physical health, no point to neglect about mental level. Like that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Remarkable. I think what we can understand is, at least myself, this spirituality is wider than religion, is more holistic, and I like this notion of circularity, of beneficial thought, rather than destruction and delusion. I take it also that aging physically is not aging in the mind or in spirituality, but it's an opportunity to develop it further. I wonder if this is a lonely process or if the surrounding, family, or relative are important. And for that question, I would like to hand you over to Dr. Mono, geriatrist on my right.
Your Holiness, in our country, in Switzerland, more than 90% of elderly persons over the age of 80 years are living at home. They are living at home. But
Home.
Yes.
But most of the time, these elderly persons are living alone. These elderly persons usually receive support from family, children, grandchildren, or other family members, and sometimes also from home care services. But one problem is that family members are less and less able to provide support to these elderly persons. One reason is that these children of elderly persons, who are typically aged between 50 or 60 years old, still have professional activities. And sometimes they also have grandchildren they care for in order to allow their children to work. Thus, the time for visiting and providing care to their parents is often lacking. As a consequence, some elderly persons really feel that they are a burden to their family. And as a geriatrician, I often heard patients saying their fear of becoming a burden for others. And some elderly persons will also express the wish to die soon, to protect their family. This is a very distressing feeling for the elderly, but also for their family. Another consequence is of this lack of family support, when there are too few family support, is that some elderly persons are forced to leave their home and to move in nursing homes to receive the care they need. And such move to nursing home is very distressing for most elderly persons. So my question is, could you say something about the fact that our family organization is no longer able to care for our elderly persons? What is your view on the fact that elderly persons are mostly living alone, often feel lonely, and sometimes are forced to leave their home and to go in nursing homes? Should we feel guilty about this?
Guilty the container. Again, I think case to case. If circumstances is really impossible to take care by the children. Children themselves sometimes economically also poor and physically also is weak, then nursing home much larger.
There's no choice then.
Then I think it is, the realistic approach. Then the children or grandchildren quite well being well, and earning also quite sufficient to support their parent or grandparent. Then, in spite of that, then you should put into the nursing home. Then there's a guilty to it.
Then you may feel guilty if you do so out of neglect, not because you are unable to do it.
This problem will increase now. Human population increasing. The other day I heard through BBC, now end of this century, 21st century, human population will reach 10 billion. The meantime, medical sort of care or these things, also you see lifespan increasing. So we are looking forward to more trouble, these things. But then, as a Buddhist practitioner, the very existence of this life is the base of problems.
So from birth, actually, there is already suffering of birth, and it's ongoing process of having to face suffering.
So, of course, that's the Buddhist viewpoint. Now, the beginning, the birth, onward, already start problems. The death, another sort of the problem. And old age, problem. Illness, a problem. Then day-to-day life, we become slave of this destructive emotion. That also a problem. But then, we cannot overcome these problems by money or by technology alone. No. Only through training of mind. That's my own experience, my sort of view. So through training of mind, when you face these problems, instead of feel sadness or helpless, but you see can translate these problems becoming more enthusiasm. I should just carry my life meaningful, sensible. Then at the end, you feel no regret. I led my life meaningful way. Now time come my death, happy. So only thing can overcome this or can challenge the
Are we able to counteract those challenges and problems?
It's ultimately related with mental strength. Of course, to some people, faith, mental strength based on faith also work. Good. And I think more sound basis is reasoning, analyze. That's, I think, really more effective and also can be universal. See, some certain of mental strength come from faith. It's never be universal. There are different faiths. And non-believers also there. So these we need. This is more research work. And I think we should not content now, particularly like universities, these. You see, you should not take for granted what you say you already have. Now this is sufficient or enough. Should not think that way. Time changing. Reality changing. So as I mentioned earlier, the population will increase. And then I think one serious of the problem, gap rich and poor. We must tackle this. So that means poorer section of people's living standard must improve. So then world nature resources also is a problem. The nature disaster now will increase because of global warming. So there are signs of a lot of more problems will come. So we must equip, you see, because of the facing these sort of new challenge. Technology also very important, but ultimately here, even sort of the willpower, determination, also very much related with motivation. Anger, hatred, never create sort of reasonable determination. Only love, compassion, or affection. I feel like that. With combination of knowledge.
Okay, thank you very much. That is another important message to universities, the impermanence of nature, and things change, and we have to change things all the time. I guess Dr. Monod has a second question to this.
Just to follow, in order to give the most meaning to this situation of loneliness and elderly persons who are living alone at home, which pathway do you think we should take? Should we try to modify our social structures to reduce loneliness, maybe create new family circles or creating activities?
What do you say?
New family circles.
New family circle.
And better integrate elderly person in society? Or, on the other side, should we also encourage this spiritual development of persons to increase, as you said, inner peacefulness and reduce distressing feelings regarding the end of life, whatever the social environment is?
I think one practical idea a few years ago, I was in Stockholm. Actually, at that time, you see, the newspaper also carried a report. Some people now carry some sort of practice. The older people, of course, physically, you see, unable, then different matter. But otherwise, you see, those retired people, so they arrange their sort of work in like the
with younger children, to put together the eldest and the youngest.
You see, elder people, you see, get a job, you see, taking care of these children, young children, telling stories, in some extent, you see, play together. That, I think, both sides. I think many positive sort of, because of the positive things there. The children, generally, you see, loves their sort of the grandparents like that. So feel like that, mixing with then naturally, you see, these old people sometimes it's a more human feeling. The working class people concentrate more on work. So on time come, on time leave. Always think salary, or holiday like that, I think. So those retired old people, they are free. So mixing with children. So I think children also, perhaps receive some more care, more affection, and also some stories. And then these old people also, you see, mixing with children, they themselves feel more younger. When I give talk, students, a short moment, I also feel now I'm younger. When I talk old people, very old people, then I have the feeling, you go first or I go first. Like that. So I think both sides benefit. To children also you see received more sort of genuine human affection. These retired old people, they have not much sort of expectation of these things.
They don't entertain a lot of hopes and fears about ordinary worldly things, achievement, success.
I think they can sort of show genuine human affection like that. That I think one method. Then individually, as I mentioned earlier, if person who have some sort of experience, training their mind, or interest about mind thinking, then so long your mind capable to think these things, then actually the very healthy person deliberately try to seek hermitage.
Oh, yes.
Oh. So, then become old. Hermit.
So, like hermits who just spend their time training their mind to a more healthy mind, they don't...
So they themselves, you see, prefer lonely.
Yeah, they don't suffer from solitude, they chose it.
So then the person who have that kind of, sort of some experience, then become old in the room, thinking, never feel some kind of loneliness. If you say old person, from childhood, always look television, then I think you become old, your eyes also not very good, even if you try to look very harmful for your eye. then boring. Music, also you cannot sort of cannot hear properly. That's really boring, really boring. There's no other way to gain some kind of inner peace, only through sensorial. Now, due to old age, this ability of sensorial things reduce. Right? That's very difficult. So there's some kind of sort of training, preparation. Face this, when you truly become old, then too late, difficult. So from childhood, through education, I think some sort of knowledge, some inner ability, then that person become old, then no worry, already equipped how to lead your life. Even sort of weak physical.
Even the physical capacity declines, still we have the inner resources to deal with that, and we are confident.
Otherwise, I don't know.
Thank you very much. That is an important issue of our Western societies, at least because you mentioned one very critical thing. So you feel bad about leaving maybe your parents if you feel guilty. And I would add, what makes you guilty? Is this society? Because you may have loyalty to your boss and you go to work, but you do not take care of your parent, or then you do not take care of your parent, but you do not go to work. Our society is kind of hyperactive and keeps being hyperactive. And as you just mentioned, we have to reinvent and develop new concepts. And for that, I would like to turn over to Mr. Platet, who has developed these solidarity neighborhoods where everybody is together. Alain?
Your Holiness, here in Lausanne and also in other places in the canton de Vaud, we have started a project called, in French, Quartier Solidaire, or Neighborhood of Solidarity. This project is an answer, a response to issues concerning elderly people such as solitude, depression, but also division between generations. The main goal of this project is to stimulate solidarity within the communities by developing social link. To do so, during a period of approximately 3 to 5 years, social workers encourage people to work by themselves for the welfare of their own neighborhood. During this empowering process, social workers no longer propose activities or leisure for the elderly as it's usually done. They specifically now always let them initiate and develop these activities by themselves. And it works. Every time groups are created within communities, and they do offer activities and leisure, such as walking group, drinking coffee together, dance class, and so on and so on. Actually, basically, the atmosphere in the neighborhood is becoming just more nice. Experience show that most of the time, because they have more spare time, it is the elderly people who take a central role in those communities. Still, one issue frequently arises then, because it is almost always the same elder people who are staying involved and active in the long term, without questioning the positive effect for the community. I wonder sometimes whether the fact that those elderly people are so socially involved is healthy for their physical condition and their peace of mind. Your Holiness, here comes my question. In your opinion, until what extent is social activism of the elderly beneficial or harmful to their well-being, to their peace of mind?
I think I already mentioned the old people, some kind of sort of work, and then they feel because of that some purpose, generally speaking, right? Ordinary people, some sort of serving to young people or any sort of other work, then feel some kind of useful. So certainly, because of extended social activism of the elderly, beneficial, certainly beneficial, rather harmful. In what sense? Harmful in what sense?
They are so engaged. There is kind of patience. There is patience in it. They are doing really so much that at one level, I remember people get almost scared about their hyperactivities for their health, but also for what they feel responsible for. Because indeed they are recognized, they are valorized by the view of the other and society.
Cognitive capacity. Oh, that of course. I think 70-80%, I think positive. Maybe 10%, maybe some. That is case because sometimes generally,
So it has to be case by case. It depends upon one's own capacities, and of course, overdoing it might have secondary effects. But in general, it seems very good. But it has to be seen on the individual basis.
Just like you see the face of that old lady, full of life. Very good. So that's why I view like that. Of course, this is human problem. We cannot generalize. Of course, because some serious or common things we can generalize. Otherwise, you see this, we cannot generalize. Human mind, so many different mental dispositions. So therefore, even if it's a certain method, everybody generally is consider something very positive, but one particular case is very harmful. That always happens.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We age and we are growing older in our societies a lot, and that will be future challenges. In the West, but elsewhere as well, aging is due to wealth and to medicine and improved healthcare. These are new challenges for medicine and society. And I would like to have a question from a medical student to have his question on this future.
Your Holiness. Your Holiness.
Not working.
Your Holiness, I am a medical student. I understand that medicine will be confronted more and more with elderly people. This is a relatively new and big responsibility. In your opinion, what will be our role as young doctors in accompanying elderly patients?
Kasa. I never have that kind of experience, so I don't know. If you really want answer for that, I think let me spend at least a few months taking care of old people, give medicine. I think if I engage or committed to such work, maybe a few weeks full of enthusiasm, and after a few weeks, my enthusiasm may melt like ice. I appreciate this young, bright, with sort of determination to serve these people, these needy people. I really, appreciate. Very good. Now, young person, you see, while you are engaging this work, you see, I think occasionally, because of the person who have the same type of work, some meeting, and so try to get different experiences and how to deal these problems or discuss among your same group. Then you may find some new ideas, new way to deal. That's the only way. Further progress. I don't know. I have no idea. Sorry.
Thank you. This is a real challenge. So I will come back maybe to the beginning now that we discuss for almost 90 minutes already. So this is the child asking his grandfather, "Grandfather, is it good to grow old?" And the grandfather would tell him, "Just sit down and let's talk." And the grandfather would tell him, "Yes, it is good to grow old." And he will tell him, but not in any way, in the way, and he will just mention the whole story you told us this morning, because I took notes, so I can give this back to the child. But this is not our reality. Our reality today in our society is that we do not have time to think, or not much. We do not have time to build up interiority. The values are essentially business, work, yell, etc. Now, what would you tell to our students, for instance, in sociology or in art or in literature? What should they do in order to go to a, say, romantically better society?
Better
society ke chitang ke kalap kan yong res kasin na mai mang chewa business ta tan ta ki jitang ke chawa the so che ya jima ki bo chadi ki ushita chale mi
that as a result of meeting with many scientists, many respected scientists, or well-known scientists, and also educationists, and also social worker. See, we sort of the common view, conclusion, the existing modern education is not adequate dealing with these problems. Mainly, you see, the mind,
intelligence.
Nowadays, many is because of due to something lacking in moral principle. That's why you see many problems individually or because of society, socially. So now the point, how to introduce in a modern education system about moral ethics, entirely based on secular way, not touching religion. Then, in fact, these secular sort of ethics are basis of all religion. So there's no contradiction. Or fuller knowledge, or fuller sort of experience of secular ethics, then add religious faith is further sort of enhance these values. So it's not at all some negative towards religious faith. So in the past, this is some I think I mentioned Lama Sunghe. Even one time, the late Pope, the Polish, St. John, a wonderful, wonderful Pope. And I always look on human level. So I may say, wonderful human being. So we become very close to the friends, relations. So one time, I asked him, any moral principle, moral ethics must be based on religion or not? Then the Pope remained silent. One of his, I think bishop, then answered me, any moral ethics must be based on religious faith. And one time, then two Germans, many years ago, one occasion, before my talk, then I think one minister, so it just was a casual talk, and he also mentioned moral ethics must be based on religious faith. So as I mentioned earlier, according to Indian understanding, secular is foundation of all religions. So secular ethics not based on religious faith. I think opposite, religious faith based on secular ethics. Secular ethics itself not based on religious faith, like that. So that I think we really need how to introduce an existing modern education field, the educate warm-heartedness, not sort of say, oh, that's God's blessing or God's grace, or to Buddhist, if you practice love, compassion, eventually you become Buddha. Not like that. Simply, in order to carry, also the happy person, happy family, happy society. The physical health, everybody knows physical health, very important. But equally, mental health is very important. So mental health, not relying on medicine, but through training of mind. So I think we can introduce that. So we're already working, making draft the secular ethics in modern existing education, secular education field. So we already, with help of, or because of the cooperation, some universities in India and also in America. So perhaps within, I think, few years, perhaps we may produce some sort of curriculum. Then try. Now, for example, Switzerland, I think one or two schools, let them, carry lesson that, and then watch the result. If the result is satisfactory, then 10 schools or 100 schools. Then eventually, because of the whole nation adopt that kind of because of the curriculum, like that. So that's why I feel only way. So all these things, also the future of humanity, very much entirely, I think, based on our education. So education is so important.
Yes, indeed. I was thinking while you were discussing.
So then, chancellors, professors should be real teacher not me. These people must be the real guru, real guru. And you bring
The new generation.
new generation, thousands new generation. The religious teaching, only a small group here and there, like that. Even some good people, small there, majority don't care. Not much effect. Buddha come, Jesus come. Yes, last over 2,000 years, I think, the number of people got immense benefit, but not change whole humanity. So now education have the ability, possibility to change humanity's way of thinking. Through that way, humanity's future can be a better one, can change. So you are these universities, education institutions, are extremely important. Then the moral ethics must start from kindergarten up to university level. So here, ancient Indian knowledge about mind, emotion is extremely helpful. So including Buddhism, particularly Nalanda tradition, a lot of information, a lot of explanation about emotion, about the system of the emotion, and how once you know sufficient knowledge about the system of the mind, emotion, then much easier to deal. Without knowing that, just one word, mind, how can? Like that.
So we should, universities actually discuss together, and students from whole Europe or worldwide discuss together, but we never reach, for some reason, what the ideal that you mentioned. So for instance, I was thinking of a curriculum of global ethics, because techniques we can learn everywhere, but ethics and moral we cannot. You mentioned that you were doing this in India or in the United States already.
Yes, we are doing. Now, especially the last, I think, 25 years ago, you see, we already, established Mind and Life Institution. So, last over 2 decades, sort of serious research and discussions. So, the individual level, I think mainly individual level, you see, they carry some sort of teaching of secular ethics. And then also, I think, discussion among science teachers there. Scientists, educators, you see some discussions in America, mainly I think in America. Now, I think we already established one branch of that in Europe, I think in Switzerland, isn't it?
Zurich.
Zurich. So we are now, our work extending. So now in India, also now, some universities is already showing interest to establish the branch of this sort of work there. Then I think eventually in China. Already I heard there's some universities in China already showing interest about our sort of the work, mind and life, this already. So therefore, we the more and more institution or people showing interest, then we develop more sort of the enthusiasm Diego also now full of enthusiasm. And the indication is to come from the rays from his head. More light now coming. So I really, then what next?
Oh, the next one was. I take it that we have to do that. I take it also that it's not so easy because usually people talk together and then they go back and they do their usual job. But let me go back to aging and address the elderly students, if you wish. How can we learn when we're old? And I would like to go back to Dr. Monod for that.
Okay. Yes, I understand that education is very important to develop this inner peacefulness. But for these elderly persons nowadays who were not used to develop this peace, this inner peace, do you think it's possible to change at 80 years old when these persons are suffering physical disability and so on? Can we do something? What should we do as clinicians?
I don't think it's any sort of effective method. This is we must cultivate from childhood. Otherwise, you see, within a short period, something difficult. Unless now a modern medical sort of field, some operation, brain operation here, and then remove all these sort of part of brain which develop worry, anxiety, remove that, and some other sort of brain which develop affection or enthusiasm put inside. Otherwise, I don't know, really I don't know. As far as training of mind is concerned, the time factor is very important. Decade by decade, then can change our mental attitude. Otherwise, very difficult. So all this must come from voluntarily, not sort of compulsory or imposed. But sometimes religious faith also is, in a way, a little bit sort of imposed. So now only way is volunteer. In order to develop sort of the enthusiasm to do that, you have to make clear all the values, the certain mental attitude, and harmfulness, some certain mental attitude. Then the person, everybody wants happy life. So then naturally, a certain mental element which actually create a lot of worry, a lot of pains, then deliberately try to distance these positive sort of emotion, then deliberately try to make effort. So this long process, isn't it?
Okay. So we have to work. We cannot actually. It's too late, as I understand. We have to reinvent something here, as you mentioned.
So I think, I hope, you see, this is just a beginning. I very much appreciate, and all the presentations of questions are wonderful questions, practical questions. So everybody, you see, they sometimes find it difficult to tackle these sort of problems. So these problems cannot solve just pray to God.
Right.
I think God already have a lot of sort of problems. So if we ask another sort of additional problem to ask, I think unfair. So these problems, we must find solution. We have to work. So therefore, I think in the future, some sort of experts, some concerned sort of professors, some senior student or younger student who have genuine sort of interest in this field, then from time to time some discussion. I think our newly established institution also, you see, can participate. Main responsibility you should carry, you should organize, then our small institution can participate, and some sort of professors from university, from America also can participate. So enrich through discussions. That's the only way. Now,
Thank you.
I think time come. Swiss must sort of stay, extend more wider sort of contact with outside world. Previously, you remain a little bit isolated.
This will be an incredible cultural challenge. Before maybe a last question from myself, I think Dr. Papadaniel has a question for you.
Yes, Your Holiness, I would like to turn back into the question of the cognitive degeneration and the question of identity, because I had the statement in mind when I asked you my first question, and this statement comes from my discipline, which is the social sciences. Social sciences often define an individual or a person on the grounds of her capacity to interact with other people. When we are confronted with a demented person, we can ask ourselves, and I would like to ask you this question: does the person, so the one who is affected by dementia, does the person cease to exist once this interaction is not possible anymore? Because I have a sentence in mind when I ask you this question, which is quite a famous sentence. I think, therefore I am. So what happens when I'm not able to think properly?
Correct.
Samlo yabu samatunda chikche ni de mi shembala jawa chematunda ravala karo chi tas dementia sine Alzheimer disease awochi jawa me pache ta dila ranke exist da wochi yoreve sakasna nga shembal jawa me ba ngaro yang samlo yabu matana ta kare lu de yores tam semke yondende chi mambo dhosara wala paatsu ken jawa ya chikche te ne ranke ya pu samlo ta ya ni de dhosane ta
Dimena sorta.
Dimena ta la khali la de years.
Still life there. Still that person is a human being. So eating, sleep. So still a human being. But where?
Nalo de samlo ta ya kande years.
What?
Nalo samlo ta ya kare lu de years.
And that also, I think, depend the sort of mental level, sort of the condition. Some, I think, due to certain sort of, I think, physical illness or something, and then always fear, always distance, and voluntarily remain isolated or withdraw. That, I think, due to illness. Then, I don't know, some maybe not sort of get used. So then, such case, you see, we have to, the neighbors, friends, have to make sort of effort, more acquaintance. I think these things, I'm quite sure, their early life, you see, surround too much fear, lack of affection. Therefore, as I mentioned at the beginning, that these people become then, you see, more because of the distance and prefer remain lonely. And actually that no any benefit. But due to due to certain sort of emotions like that. These, I think, we have this possibility, showing by surrounding people more affection, and then almost like try to drawing where they come out, that kind of mental state. Isn't it? What do you think?
What do you think?
I don't have any answer about that question. I think that's the big challenge for the next years. I mean, to be able to know better who.
I think one time in America, one chancellor of a big university, because it's a long drive from my hotel to that university. So the chancellor, because accompanied with me in the car, after a few sort of exchange nice words, then eventually he expressed his sort of problems deep inside, his feeling loneliness. Chancellor, very educated, and I think a very good name, and salary very good, but person remain very unhappy person, in deep inside, lonely feeling. Then I took his hand, and then firstly, I express my difficulties. Then, in spite of these difficulties, I keep my spirit because of the high way, through such sort of way of thinking. Then gradually, the chancellor's face becoming more positive. Then later, I was told the staff member in chancellor's office, last several months, the chancellor always remain lonely. And then after our meeting, then chancellor eventually become very active. So seems those staff member in his office, I think they prefer previous one, less work. When you see chancellor become very active, they get much more job, much more work, much more busy. So I heard, you see, like that. So these things only share their problem. I think
Share open.
Share open, and similar sort of experience. The other one should not create impression. Some particularly, you see, the bad luck. Not that way. We all, you see, facing that kind of experience. However, you see, we try our best, you see, to overcome these things. Then that person. There's one story in 10th centuries ago, 10th century, one great sort of teacher among his student. He says, some student, a little bit for today, dissatisfaction. So express their sort of unhappiness. Then the other student, to whom you see that person, you see express telling these things. Then the other one mentioned or respond, yes, I also, you see, a lot of problem. Sort of make sort of same sort of condition. Then, however, I feel such. Then you say I can sort of I can overcome all these difficulties. Then the other one, after that sort of conversation, then completely change. So that's the proper way. We never look down these people. We must look them as the same human brothers, sisters, and share their problems. Then show our experience, our affection. So whenever I give talk, I always have the feeling I'm same human being. Perhaps here a few hundred sort of people here. We are same. Mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. If I sort of consider myself as something different, better knowledge, better experience, totally wrong. And with that kind of sort of, because of the attitude, and then try to help others. No. Maybe in ancient time, all kings or queens and the religious leaders, they telling their subject, you should do it. That's outdated. Now, we must sort of stay. We must have sort of 100% equality. And not only right from the constitution by law, but also, you see, potential here also equal, same potential. The only sort of difference is realize this potential, and instead of sort of
Giving up.
Or discourage, and more sort of enthusiasm, more willpower, through reasons, not unrealistic approach. So human intelligence is source of determination. And intelligence, warm-heartedness combined, then we can develop real sort of enthusiasm. Then your life becomes meaningful, full life.
Thank you very much. Your Holiness, I think we're almost at the end of this morning session, but I would like to just pinpoint one thing that I think is very important and goes for all ages. So the world is multicultural, and this is one of the beauty of the world, diversity. In this room, in this audience, you have Indian people, that you have probably something like 50 or 100 different people from 100 or different countries. And that is a beauty. Now, if we want to go and educate everybody to target a united, happy life, you tell us that there must be a universal ethics on the basis, and then that the different culture can build on that, remain.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think this is very important for everybody, including the students and the professors, of course. I would like to thank you very much indeed, Your Holiness, and Mr. Ricard and Mr. Wanglu for a wonderful job this morning. I would like to thank all the speakers and scientists and the public. It has been a very great morning, and I would like to ask our rector to come back on stage. He will accompany you to the meal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Afternoon, different participants or different, same.
Same public, same
Oh,
participant.
oh, good.
No. Other participant on.
Other people on the panel.
Oh, Kishore.